I wanted to open with this little nugget. I don't know how many of you listening have ever subjected yourself to a little program called Fox and Friends on Fox. And, you know, I try not to subject myself to too much of it because, as I've said, I find it terribly uncomfortable, that burning sensation in the throat, you know, when you throw up a little bit in your mouth and you have to swallow it back down, which I do. I swallow it back down because that's the kind of competitor that I am. But it does burn and it's uncomfortable. So I'm not a regular viewer of that program. And, you know, and of course, Fox and Friends with Steve Dushy, Brian Kilmeade, and the token blonde who sits in the middle, whose name, by the way, is Ainsley Earnhardt. And there's a reason I'm using her actual name. And by the way, I have been accused of sounding sexist when I refer to her as the token blonde who sits in the middle. Hello to Kathy Pouliot in the Facebook live chat. Hi, Kathy. There's a new name I haven't seen in there before. I try to explain, though. I don't mean it. I get why it sounds sexist. I don't mean it that way. I'm just saying that's always been, since the very beginning of that program, for as long as I can remember, that's always been, going back like 2 decades, the Fox and Friends formula. You've got Steve Dushy, Brian Kilmeade. I'm still not sure I'm saying their names exactly correctly. And you've got the token blonde who sits in the middle. So, and if she needs a day off, another blonde at Fox sits in for her, because it's Fox. They have plenty of blondes, because that's what the 70-year-old conservative males who watch Fox, because that is their key demographic. That's what they want to see in the morning, first thing in the morning. That's what they want to wake up to, if you know what I mean. So, I don't know if you're like me, and in those moments when you've been subjected to Fox and Friends, have you ever asked yourself this question? Which one of these 3 people, Steve Dushy, Brian Kilmeade, and Ainsley Earnhardt, and I'm going to use her real name going forward, at least for this segment, and there's a reason why, because I want to make sure credit is given where it's due. Have you ever wondered which one of these 3 people is actually the dumbest? Which one of these 3 intellectually vapid, knuckle-dragging imbeciles could possibly be the least intelligent of the 3? And you might be thinking, that's a tough call. I mean, they're really, really dumb, all 3 of them, right? For a long time, I thought it was Brian Kilmeade. I thought there couldn't be anyone, probably in all of television, dumber than him. My friends, I was wrong. And I know you're probably wondering, Matt, how could you even measure this? I mean, all 3 of them are just, they have such tiny little, I imagine their brains probably combined being about the size of a kernel of corn. How could you even measure which one of these 3 baboons is the dumbest? And I think I have found the answer, because when during a segment where they were discussing the Florida recount, which after the year 2000, I never thought I'd be using that phrase again. Well, actually, I guess deep down I always kind of did know, but here we are 18 years later, and we're using the phrase Florida recount. Fortunately, we haven't had to use any other phrases yet, like hanging Chad. I'm sure that's coming. But so the 3 there on Fox and Friends were discussing the Florida recount, and the position on Fox News largely has been, because it's, and also on conservative talk radio and so forth, they don't like the recounts. Can't we just do what we did in 2000? You know, in 2000, of course, the Supreme Court intervened and said, no, you don't have to count those votes in Bush v. Gore. Yeah, never mind all that. We're just going to say Bush won. And that's why people often say, referring to the 2000 election, that W was selected, not elected, because he was actually, and it's funny, Al Gore in his concession speech even said that he wanted to congratulate George W. Bush on becoming the next president. He was very careful not to use the words winning or having been elected the next president. I want to congratulate him on becoming the next president. He was very precise with his language, and I'm pretty sure that was intentional. But anyway, so you have these Republicans who are, this guy, Steve Schlapp, was on Fox and Friends the other day, another real deep intellectual claiming that, the recount has to be stopped because this is all just part of the Democrats' dry run for figuring out how to be even better at stealing elections. Because a lot of Republicans think that the only way a Democrat ever wins an election is because of massive voter fraud. But I heard what is absolutely the dumbest argument ever for why this recount should not continue and a winner should just be declared. And don't worry about counting all those ballots. We need to know now. And that reason was uttered by Ainsley Earnhardt. And I'm using her real name because I want to make sure that credit is given. I don't want there to be any confusion about who I'm speaking of when I declare this person the dumbest person on Fox and Friends. Let me play this for you. Here's why she thinks this recount must not go forward.
And I think part of the fun of voting and having your voice heard is finding out on election night. We all stay up really late to see what these votes, when they come in and when these races are called. If you aren't, or you're still counting votes after 10 days, and I understand if it's super close, you have to do that. And it is down there. But if you're still counting votes, if they change it for going forward, we're still counting ballots 10 days after, it kind of takes the fun out of election night.
Yeah, well, I'm willing to take the fun out to get it right, though, Ainsley, right?
Well,
and we should just go back to election day being election day.
Yes, you heard that correctly. We shouldn't be still counting all these votes, all these ballots, because it's much more fun to find out on election night who won. You got to just call it that night. It's not fun having to count all these ballots. And that's the problem with this whole counting, all this counting and recounting and making sure we get it right. It's not fun. Elections are supposed to be fun. I think elections are fun. Personally, I think it's fun when things like this happen, by the way. When you do have delays in finding out the winner and all this legal wrangling and all that. I find it all fascinating. As a political junkie, I would, right? But to her, it's just not fun. Yeah, elections are fun. This is all supposed to be fun. I'm not having fun waiting to find out who wins. She said something so shockingly stupid that the two shockingly stupid people that sit on either side of her actually tried to counter what she was saying. Because you might have heard in the clip, Steve Ducey actually said, well, it is close. And then at the end of it, Brian Kilmeade, who up until now I thought was actually the dumbest of the three, Brian Kilmeade actually says, well, you gotta get this right. You gotta keep counting until all the votes are counted. I think it's important to get this right, Ainsley. So there you have it, officially based on this. Now, until Steve Ducey or Brian Kilmeade says something even dumber than this, Ainsley Earnhardt is officially, I declare, the dumbest person on Fox and Friends. Yes, Ainsley Earnhardt, the dumbest. She may be. Now, this may be a stretch. Forgive me if this is too much, but she may be the dumbest person on all of Fox. I won't say the dumbest in all of conservative media, but on all of Fox, she may literally be the dumbest. So there you have it. You look like you have something to say, sir. Are you Are you done with dealing with the whatever you were dealing with there? Or do you agree with me? Is she the dumbest person on Fox and Friends of the three? Or do you feel that it's something that can't accurately be measured?
Elections are supposed to be fun.
They are fun. I agree.
In fact, that was part of the, before television or radio, elections, were fun. They were funner. They
were not fun enough for her.
Behind the ball comes from the 1840 election, where William Henry Harrison supporters had a huge ball and they'd roll it through a town, and people were invited to come and push the ball.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Why? Why were people pushing huge balls around?
Something that Martin Van Buren, who gave name to Glenn R.J. Ouellette's hometown.
Oh, right.
Of Jackson, Maine.
Up in, okay.
He had been Jackson's vice president.
Uh-huh.
And then succeeded him as president.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember exactly, but it had something that he had said something with the metaphor ball. So they said, let's get behind the ball and get William Henry Harrison into the White House, which they did, but he only lasted a month because he gave a speech in the rain and died.
So it sounds
That
to me
wasn't
then.
fun.
So based on what you're saying, so it sounds to me like part of Ainsley Earnhardt's problem is,
She is old-fashioned.
She's saying, let's hurry up, let's get behind these
ball.
balls and get them rolling.
Perhaps we shouldn't use actual voting. We could do something like bingo.
Right.
Maybe candidates could buy balls or declare for balls, or people, the so-called voters who don't really count anyways, as Florida elections often show, they could scratch their names on balls or give balls. Take blue ball. Let's not go there.
Oh my goodness.
We're not talking about the Bill Clinton now. Red ball or whatever. And we could have in New Hampshire, we could have the Honorable Joel Elber. He's a great bingo ball caller.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow, I've heard that about him.
Oh yeah, there is video of that. So it could be fun, and you could leave it a little up to chance because
But what
look
kind
at
of
Florida.
balls would they be big, like these giant
They could
heavy
be
balls
big.
that you would have to
that
push?
would be something, huh? Because
Yeah.
many voters would have to get behind that big ball.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll never forget the first time I was in basic training at the end. It's the first time I balled. The first time
Pardon
I
me?
bowled
Yes.
with big balls.
Right.
And it's like being in a Rodney Dangerfield film because I just did candle pins.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, a guy that wrote a book on candle pins. He's going to be on my show. But that's not
wow,
neither here nor there.
Please remind me when that's happening. I want it because that sounds fascinating.
I go back with the ball, this big ball,
must-see
getting
TV.
it ready, and
Yes.
it slips out of my hand and goes backwards.
Oh, my
that
goodness.
was embarrassing.
Well, that sounds embarrassing.
Well, if you come from a small state, maybe you'd have smaller balls.
Would everybody would everyone get to put both hands on the balls, or is it just
depends
one
on the
hand?
size of the ball.
Okay.
Now, if you were using big balls, it would take a lot more voters to get the big ball. And, perhaps that's like the Electoral College or something. Bigger states might have bigger balls that requires more voters to get behind the ball.
Well, that makes sense.
Because it is a federal system, maybe in New Hampshire you'd have smaller balls. But I think that sounds a lot of fun and exciting, and we can't possibly do worse than what we have now.
Right, yes. Yeah. Well, hopefully that would be fun enough for Ainsley Earnhardt to enjoy.
I think she'd enjoy it.
I think she would, too.
I know I would.
Certainly, yes.
Depends on who's pushing the ball with me.
Right.
Or who's handling my ball. I said ball.
You just get your own ball? That doesn't make sense.
I guess
you mean if you're a candidate again in the future, you'd have like a ball.
Right.
That
you'd have a ball. Well, you'd have many balls, I guess. So, because you'd have to, let's how many balls could be brought to the big bingo game.
Right.
And
yes.
then, the balls would go around and around, and they'd come out.
Yes. Yes.
It can't be any more expletive deleted up than the Electoral College has been.
That's right. I agree. So, but do you agree with?
So you do agree with is it Ainsley?
Ainsley Earnhardt. Yes.
Ainsley Earnhardt, Steve Ducci's friend.
I think it's pronounced douchey.
Well, that sounds.
And if you don't know, now you know.
Because I'm a stickler for pronouncing people's names correctly, whether it's Kim Jong-un or Paul Cormier. I like to say people's names correctly.
Well, Trump's name's not really Trump. Wasn't he born something else?
It's Drumpf, I think.
Yeah, Drumpf.
Drumpf.
His father might have changed it by the time he was born in 46. The arrest records for the time he was with the Ku Klux Klan in the 20s, it's Trump.
Oh, right.
Yeah.